This weekend, Tomiris and I returned to Empire, the biggest live-action roleplay event in all of England. After our last visit, we felt like we should contribute more, so this time I had set myself a mission. I would do an architectural survey of the Empire. In preparation, I made an illustrated map of the Empire that shows my initial understanding of the architectural style of each nation that makes up the Empire, starting with Wintermark, then the Imperial Orcs, Vushka, Dawn, Marches, Navarre, Brass Coast, the League, High Guard, and my own nation, the Urizen. After posting my previous video about LARPing, I heard a rumor that the organizers of Empire were trying to purchase a piece of land to be able to build some permanent buildings. As an architect and fantasy lover, this excites me greatly, and I wish to contribute whatever way I can. I therefore centered the conversations around what permanent buildings do you imagine your nation creating if given the opportunity? Here are my findings. I started with my own nation, the Urizen. Captain Marines brewed me tea from his herb garden. I showed him my maps, and we started talking about what the Urizeni might build. He first suggested a herbal garden, which makes sense as he makes his own tea with it, but quickly changed his mind to an observatory with a glass roof to see the night sky. We also discussed how the plan of Urizen is quite messy despite their love of order. I proposed to organize the Urizeni campsite in a circular plan akin to the ideal cities such as Atlantis. My next stop was Vushka, where I picked up a bottle of mead and took my place around a big fire pit. When asked what they would build, they laughed and nodded at the fireplace we all sat around. For the Varushkans, there is nothing more important than the hearth. Upon which, a prolonged conversation about the different spirits living in the hearth sprung up. That continued until I left them, having finished my mead. I then stopped by the Three Bees, a brewery run by Bert and his wife Bella. Bert poured me a tankard full to the brim of excellent dry cherry mead and indulged me in conversation. He was very excited about my map and asked if he could buy it for a throne and a complimentary bottle of mead, which I happily agreed to. He then told me that the marchers would want something functional, like a big scarecrow, or even better, a windmill, where everyone can come and grind their flour. My next stop was the League. I spotted a local legend and my neighbor in the campsite, Konrad der Wildhutter von Holberg of the Haudigen. I asked him, and he immediately suggested a triumphal arch be built, where only the victorious soldiers may march through. He laughed that his face should be carved into its facade. I then headed to the forest of the Navarre camp to see the songs and stories performed around a campfire to the enjoyment of dozens of audience members. There, I actually met an old Navarre friend from last festival. As we were watching the fabulous Thalys organize the evening's fashion show, my friend said there was no doubt that the Navarre would build an amphitheater. Next door, I found the Orc Camp. A bunch of them stood clustered around the bar, drinking the local brew, War Rhino. They told me that the orcs didn't really build buildings of their own, but would reuse old human buildings. In the process, they would learn everything they could about the place to maintain it and adapt it to their needs. This involved everything from decorating it with their symbols, fortifying it, or shift interior walls around, often joining the bedrooms together, as orcs likes to sleep communally. My next stop was Wintermark. There I was recommended to seek the Steiner, the more artistic lot in the nation. I sat down with Grunwald, Rock and Caesar. They were very excited about the prospect of building permanent buildings. Rock said he was a joiner in real life, and Grunwald told me about the Canadian LARP Bicolline, where over 200 houses are built by the attendees. Our conversation then led to standing stones, and I told them I had witnessed the raising of a giant standing stone in a festival in Portugal, and it was quite a sight. I think I was one of over 100 people involved in pulling thick ropes and propping the stones up as they were raised. I think this kind of ritualistic build would suit the mystical Wintermark. Maybe they could even raise one stone every year. I then went to Dawn, as I had found an amazing tent called Weaver's Rest, full of rich textiles, delicate objects, and even a 4-post bed. He told me about the chivalric nature of his nation, centered around a fighting nobility. He pointed out of the tent, at the Glory Square, where fighting practice, dances, and tournaments were held. He had no doubt that the Dawnish would build a Colosseum if given the opportunity. Heading back, I saw 3 free folk from the Brass Coast. One lay face down in wood chips, making angels. The other said his friend had been cast a spell upon, which made him obsessed with textures. I asked them what kind of architecture they would like to add to the Brass Coast. They said a fountain, of course. The Brass Coast are sea folk from a dry climate, and it would indeed make sense for them to have a fountain where one can play and cool down. By this point, I was quite tired, and quite frankly drunk, and I'd completely forgotten about Highguard. My own take is that a Gothic temple or cemetery would suit them, but if any Highborn are watching, please let me know what you think. That was my findings from my first architectural survey of Empire. I didn't go into much detail here, as I think it would be cool to make a video about each one in the future, as well as other imperial buildings such as the Sentinel Gate, the Mage's Circle, and the Senate. I hope this project can help the community get excited and discuss the future permanent site of Empire. Please tell me what you think in the comments. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts, and especially if you have ever been to Anvil yourself. And as always, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.